Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, a.k.a. Possibility Man. We're committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Our guest today, Dr. Peggy Gleason, the founder of Nature One Health Organization and the owner of Professional Women's Wellness, brings a wealth of experience to her role as a natural health doctor. She's uniquely qualified to empower individuals to achieve total well-being. Dr. Gleason was a critical care nurse with certifications in integrative health and wellness, the psychology of eating, and nutrition. Her passion lies in helping professional women flourish in their lives and careers by inspiring a healthy lifestyle and boosting their self-confidence. Dr. Gleason, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
Hey, look, I am excited about this conversation. But first, a reminder to our listeners and our viewers, follow, like, and share this podcast wherever you find it. Hit that subscribe button because your support matters and is appreciated. Hey, Dr. Gleason, you may not recall, but I saw you for the first time on this platform called LinkedIn. Most people are aware of it, but just in case they don't know about it, it's a professional platform. And there was something under your name about mindful eating. And I thought, I gotta talk to this lady. So excited to chat with you. There are a number of things that I want to talk with you about. And I know that you are an RN, a registered nurse by training, and of course you've gone way beyond that. But I'm just curious, is there anything in your background that puts you on the path to wanting to get into healthcare and want to become a nurse?
Yes. I grew up with a lot of illness around me. My family had so many different people that were needing care. My mom was a nurse. I was the last of six, but by the time I came by, and that was after my brother who had Down syndrome was born, she stopped working because she had a lot of responsibilities. But what I noticed is my mother and father were always taking care of somebody, either my brother or my aunt and uncle who both had multiple sclerosis, or my uncle who had a cardiac issue. It was always, that's how I remember the world. And I somehow connected myself to my brother Tom, because even though I was a year younger than him, I walked before he did, and I was always trying to help him with the next steps. So to me, it was almost organic. That's what I knew how to do. And I liked to serve people. However, I did give up a career in art, fine art, but that's another story.
Well, okay. So, what was your fine art? Let's not leave that right now. So, tell me more about your art.
When I was in high school, I studied every medium and did great. I loved it. That's where my place of peace came. I would sit in my room for hours and sketch people, and I worked in all mediums, from like pen and ink, reverse pen and ink,
Wow.
charcoal, oils. It was just a really wonderful time at, going through school and learning. And then I was going to go to an art school, but I was kind of discouraged.
Okay. All right.
My father said, wait a minute, well, you can't be an artist because all artists are drug addicts and they hang out on streets.
Oh.
He didn't understand. And that was okay, because then my other calling came about. So it was meant to be.
Sure. Do you dabble as an artist now, on your own time or as a hobby?
I do and I don't. It depends on what's going on in my life at the current time. Sometimes I'll pick out a sketch pad and do some sketching. But I haven't done it that much lately. I've been a little tied up here.
Understood. Well, look, you're busy helping people in many other ways. Was nursing what you thought it would be, once you became an RN and practicing?
That's a good question, because it transitioned so many times during 4 decades. It's like it was this, and then it was this, and then it was that. When I first started, and it was interesting because I didn't even realize I had that calling till a year after I graduated high school. I took a year because I had to work and get some money together to go to school, and I was working for the telephone company, and I was making good money. I was, doing fine. And then they went on strike. Thanks God, because then I started thinking about what I wanted to do because I had a lot of time in my hands. And when I went into cardiac care automatically, and I liked it. But then it wasn't enough. Then I wanted to do critical care, and I stayed in critical care most of my career. But I enjoyed it. I think it was what I thought it should be, what I pictured it. But I also created what I wanted. I didn't stay in one spot. If I didn't think that area was right, I'd go to the next step and see what else made me happy. And I think critical care was so fascinating to me because that was where things were changing and new things were coming out. Some of the new catheters under ultrasound were coming out at that point. This is a long time ago. So I was exposed to things when they were first happening. So it got exciting for me. Towards the end, I was a little disappointed. I felt like we were pulling away from the patient, doing too many other things, like technical things. And I would stay late. If I could spend time at the bedside talking to the patient, I didn't care what time I get done. But that's what changed, and that's what was disappointing to me, is that nurses today are not afforded the time to spend speaking, just getting down on their level, sitting in a chair and saying, how are you, Mr. Smith? Tell me a little bit more about your family. I can't do that now.
Yeah, it's off to the next one, right? But you said something very interesting. You said the calling. You referenced, your pursuit of nursing as a calling.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you to recognize that calling? How did that show up for you?
I'm still wondering myself.
Yeah.
It was just all of a sudden, boom. Yeah, I think I'll go to nursing school. I love that question because I never did put it together, except that later on I'm thinking, no, I was meant to be of service in healthcare. But how that divine intervention, or whatever anybody else wants to call it, to me it was like, yeah, I think I'd like that. And that was that, right?
I'm with you there because when you know, and that knowing is what you're talking about. Yeah, medicine and healthcare interests me because, over the years, I only knew about conventional or allopathic medicine.
Oh, yeah.
But today we got all kinds of. So can you help us understand first what is allopathic? And I'm just throw out one more that you'll help us with. What is allopathic or
it's sort of the Western medicine instead of the Eastern medicine, right? So with allopathic, it's diagnoses and treatment with pharmaceuticals or surgery or all the things we know as, we could say, the regular doctors, right? Your family practitioners. Whereas with natural health, when I went to study that, if I'm answering this question correctly, I wanted to study all different modalities, from Ayurveda to Eastern to Chinese medicine. I just went to every single area. And that was what my doctorate was about, is to understand all the other things other countries are doing and how come this country was still so sick. And then I figured it out. We weren't doing the right things.
Well, we're going to dig into you figuring out in a moment. So you mentioned, your field of specialty, natural health doctor. Would that fit under integrative medicine, or would that fit under something else?
Yes, integrative medicine, absolutely. Okay. Because when we want to integrate, I look at it this way. When we look at integrative medicine, we're looking at the whole person. And
Uh,
I've used many different models of the wheel of health. And when you look at, there's at least 12 dimensions of well-being.
mhm,
Generally, in allopathic medicine, they're just looking at the physical part, right?
mm,
They're not looking at, they've been really sad. Maybe that has a connection to being sick in this
mhm.
part,
Okay.
whereas integrative, you look at the whole person, every single
Yeah.
part of their being. How are they moving? How are they eating? What is their intimacy like, their relationships, and on, because
Yeah.
all that tied together creates our well-being.
Wow. Now you mentioned that there are 12, I'm not sure if you said parts of well-being or not, but 12 elements of
Of
well-being. You've already
dimensions.
given us of dimensions. You've already given us two of them. One is how a person feels. That's important. So why is that important to a person's health? How a person feels at any given time?
Well, it's the thinking. And
Uh,
do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? How you I think about emotions a lot, because
mm,
emotions, you know, have a big part of what I do now, with the psychology of eating. If
uh,
if somebody is sad or worried or fearful, what are they thinking while they're in this emotional
mm,
state? Are they trying to fill a void?
yeah.
So we look at the thinking, the feeling, the emotion. Yeah, it's all connected. So I don't know if I answered
Yeah.
that the way
Well,
you
you
wanted.
answered that question because, and I see what you're saying because, look, I'll confess it. If I'm in a low mood, look, I may start with a small cup of ice cream and then end up eating much more than that. So, yeah. But you also mentioned, Dr. Gleason, relationships. So you're
Mm,
telling us that that's important to a person's health and well-being?
absolutely,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. If someone's lonely, that
Mm,
often will affect probably how they feel. They may be sad if they're lonely. They may be,
yeah.
depressed. It can be
Mm,
many things, right? And you notice, like, for instance, how do we feel when we look at a grandchild? Or I have grandchildren. So
yeah.
I think, gosh, I haven't seen them so long. When I could be in the worst, worried state, I see one of those babies and I am like, yeah, and I have
Yeah.
energy. I feel like I can do anything, right? So
Mm,
think about how our emotions affect not only how we feel, but how we think, how we move,
mm,
how we
mm.
eat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dimensions.
Yeah, I got you. Would you just share with us two other dimensions? We got two now, sadness or where you feel, but also relationships.
Well, the dimensions are more like um, self-care. Well, I mean,
Oh,
self-love, self-love.
mm,
I'm not going to be able to remember all of them in the order that
mm,
I'm thinking.
yeah,
Intimacy, and that can be
okay.
not necessarily sexual, but intimacy in relationships. Um, Thinking. Wait, let me think.
Yeah. And no, this is great. I don't want all of
Eating,
them,
moving. Yeah,
but
there's a bunch of them.
yeah,
There's so many.
yeah. That helps us. And that, you've already given us a lot to work with, so that's great. Now, as a natural health doctor, I know you talk a lot about wellness. And I think you've offered something that's called, try to give us a definition of wellness. Let me ask you, what is wellness? How can a person know that they are well or not well?
Again, it comes to well-being. Well, I think of well-being, and that's
Okay.
wellness to me. It's your well-being is balanced. All the dimensions are balanced.
Mm,
I think that's really important, because I think imbalances are what make us not so
mm,
well, right?
mm,
Um, just, I think just being
mm,
peaceful, being right
yeah.
with the world.
Mm,
Um, in my thoughts, I mean, it may be different for every person, right? Everybody
mm,
has a different definition as it pertains to them. For me, it's being at peace,
yeah.
being accepting,
Yeah. Hmm.
um, not judging. We have
Yeah.
so much judgment, and our behaviors are, of course, attached to that as well.
Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty much what I think. And when I think about the physical part, I
Hmm.
think when we look at well-being in the physical realm, yes, it has to do with all the moving parts of your mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, it's a holistic way of looking at health, isn't
It
it?
is. It
Yeah, everything
is.
is working. Yeah. So, you are a natural health doctor, and gosh, we live in the United States, you and I. The people viewing this or listening to this may live in other parts of the world. But here in America, and maybe across the world, I hear about a lot of chronic health conditions.
Mm.
So what about you? Do you hear about them? And if so, can you list maybe two or three of them for me? Chronic health
Yes.
conditions.
Yes. And this leads me to say this is why I went into natural health. When
Ah,
I was working in the critical care, working all the different units, we kept seeing the same people come back.
mm,
And they had chronic illnesses. So, what did allopathic medicine do? They came in, treated the symptom, maybe gave them more medication, and off they would go. Well, they'd come back sometimes with side effects from the medications and
yeah,
not any better, and then they'd add more.
mm,
I always felt we never got to the root cause of what was going on with
mm,
them. We just
yeah,
band-aided, we just put a band-aid on all the symptoms, looking at what are we doing for, what is medicine today? This is how I would look at it. Acute care is fantastic in Western medicine. Boy, if I break a bone or if I slice my arm, I want to go get it stitched up or casted or whatever it needs. Anything that is acute, I think, is really well done here in the United States. We have great, great medical practices. However, when it comes to chronic diseases, I don't think they fare quite as well. Because
mm,
take, for instance, blood sugar. That's a
yeah.
chronic illness, right?
Type 2
Diabetes.
diabetes.
Now,
Yeah.
if you have type 2 diabetes, oh, we're going to give you insulin to control your sugars. Well, and they might say, well, cut out the sugars. Well, there's a lot more to do than that.
Mm,
It's again behavior, because if somebody has a problem with eating or they're just can't figure stuff out, and it could be maybe they're depressed, they're eating sugar to heal, to take away the
mm,
pain, and they're just not doing well with insulin. I mean, just not doing well with their diabetes.
mm,
um, the insulin's important while you need it, but what about really getting to the root cause and saying, okay, or not so much root cause, because we do know sometimes it's just obesity, many
yeah.
times, right? So why don't we really work on that as well? Like, let's have
Hmm.
a plan. Let's have a really good program. And that may not be the best example, but like arthritis, there's a
Hmm.
lot of things we can do for arthritis,
Mm,
other than just give people, uh, you know, steroids or NSAIDs. It's taking a bunch of Advil is not going to help necessarily over the long term, because they're going to develop some kind of a stomach issue, right? So,
right.
there are other things we could get them into. You can maybe work with them on getting into a movement
Mm,
program and doing other things. And there's untold numbers of other natural modalities, and supplementation is a very big
mm,
one. There's a lot of
mm,
supplementation that can replace different medications.
mm.
Although I don't tell
Yeah.
people to get off their medicine, I try to say, okay, work with your doctor, but
Mm,
this is something I want you to add, because this will
yeah.
really make a difference.
Hmm.
There's some things even with cancer, that I think are really important for people to have. There's certain antioxidants that grow right on it, right from the earth, right? We look at the
Mm,
muscadine grape, right? I
mm,
mean, it's not the pulp, but the seeds and the skins. They have some of the highest, most potent antioxidants. And, it's just polyphenols and like crazy. So
yeah.
those are the things that are different. We look
Uh-huh.
things other than chemicals.
But I want to ask you this. Why do you suppose high blood pressure is so difficult to manage with people who develop it?
Number one is obesity.
Mm,
That is a big part of it. It's interesting how if a person loses 5 pounds, they generally it starts coming down. I can tell you, my own husband uh, just went through a severe, real serious cardiac event. He lost 64 pounds. And
Wow.
he's doing more now than he's done in years. He's also recovering from the insult, but
Mm,
it was amazing. His blood pressure is now right down here, just from losing weight. Of course, he's other cardiac meds, but that's separate. But just the weight
mm,
loss alone was a big deal. Also, what are you putting in your body?
mm,
Cholesterol's one of those things that always gets me. People think you have to have really, really low cholesterol. Well, don't get too low, because that's what your brain needs to think. Some people think, I want to get my cholesterol gone. Well, no, you don't. You need it to think.
mm,
That's your brain food. So
mm,
and we look at what helps your bad cholesterol and what raises good cholesterol. You want that the
mhm,
good cholesterol. Exercise, right? And
mm, mhm.
there's so many different things, red rice yeast, there's many different things that we can do outside. And if we
Yeah.
get that complementary, I don't say alternative, I say complementary modalities.
Yeah. It's hopeful. You said that your husband once had high blood pressure, but, it's now more normalized. And I'm
In fact,
assuming that
yeah.
he is, an adult, man of about like, my age and like, because yeah, I had assumed that blood pressure goes up as you age up, but you just told me that not necessarily.
Not
Your husband is
necessarily.
grandpa.
I'm up there and I have a really low blood pressure.
Huh.
It's just very low, but I'm also very active. And I think
Uh-huh.
that's the key, is to keep your
Yeah.
body moving. And that's that other dimension, right?
Yeah.
That's really important, is movement. And there's
Yeah.
just, we could talk all day about what different things we can offer people for chronic illness, but there's so many. But
Mhm.
that's why you need to have the balance, right?
Indeed, balance is everything for sure. Now, you are an integrative health coach, you're a natural health doctor. Also, you coach people around this as well. And one of the things that you talk with them about is their relationship with food. What do you mean by that? Do we have relationships with food? We only have
Oh,
relationships
yeah.
with people.
Yeah, I know. In fact, it's funny because we've been trying to change the verbiage on that because nobody knows what that means. What do I shake a ham? I shake the banana or what, So, no, it's your behaviors and your
Mhm,
attitudes and your moods around food.
mhm,
So, for instance, let's take nighttime snacking.
mhm,
Um, is that what you go to instead of having a conversation with someone? Do you go to,
mhm,
you know, nighttime snacking is a real tough one. But in fact, I just put a program out. It's called Goodbye Night Bites. It's like a 30-day program just to help people understand their own, what are they
mhm,
doing, Um, but relationship with food is, if you think about, why do you eat differently when people are around versus when you're alone? Well,
mhm,
I think I'll go to the pantry here and just eat a couple cookies, and then I'll go back and pretend, I'm not overeating. Or do you overeat? Do you eat so fast? I mean, when we look at the speed of eating is really fascinating, because little as it, do most people know that when you eat fast, your metabolism slows. When you eat slow, your metabolism goes up, which is doesn't make sense to most people, but it makes sense to me.
uh,
Um, but it makes when you think about, when you eating slow is one of the biggest things I work with people who have it eating. They're just eating without even tasting the food, right?
mhm,
When they have to try to slow down, it's very, very hard. And I know that from my own experience. My house had 3 firefighters in it. And firefighters are known to eat very, very fast because they want to make sure they get the food before the whistle rings, right? So when we would sit at the table, it'd be like that alarm went off, and it was like, okay, take cover, because they're going to be flying over you, right? So And when I was little, I didn't eat hardly anything. I was very poor. I was just fussy. But then when I started eating and enjoying it, I ate
Yeah.
like my own pants were on fire. It was ridiculous. And I realized I started getting GI upsets, right? Why do I have reflux? Well, how fast do you eat? Well, I just ate that dinner in 5 minutes. It's
Mm.
like, but I also, to defend that eating fast, I had a career where you didn't have time to eat. It was the grab and go diet. If you're in critical care, don't even think you're going to sit down to eat. You're just going to go grab something, eat it, and go back to your patient. So, relearning how to eat slowly is such a critical part because it teaches you how to enjoy your food. How
Yeah.
is it that when we eat at home, we might eat faster? When we go out to dinner, we might eat much slower.
Mhm.
Enjoy it, right?
You just reminded me of something that's so important. There's a lot of talk today about, being present or mindfulness. A lot of people are talking about, but being present. And what you just told me, I heard it. I hope that I practice it. You said, look, you can be present with food when you eat. Just
Mm-hmm.
slow down and enjoy your food. That's
Yeah.
practicing presence. At least that's what I heard you say to me.
Well, that is because what I work with is teaching mindful eating, which includes, uh, I'll put it simple. It's not just what you eat that's important, which
Uh,
is important, but it's where, when, how, and why you eat.
mhm,
That's how we unearth what's going on with a person is looking at those other factors, right?
mhm.
Because every one of those are important. And that once we put all that together, we can kind of see what's going on. Like, why
Yeah,
do I eat at night? What's going on? Are you tired?
yeah,
Are you
yeah,
are you are you exhausted? It's,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you were saying is that people can actually, I mean, food is so interesting. Food is good for us, but yet, from what you teach, from what I've noticed, is that we can abuse it. And you've just
Yeah.
answered one question, and my question, well, why would we do that? And you just said, well, if you're lonely at night, maybe
Mhm.
you'll go and grab something that's unhealthy. So what else may drive us to do something that's unhealthy around food?
I think there's a few things, there's a few scenarios. What happens during the holidays?
Mm,
We give ourselves permission to eat anything that's, oh, baked goods, it's Christmas cookies or Hanukkah or whatever celebratory foods are out. Well, we overeat because it's Thanksgiving. I mean, do we really need 12 different things on the table to taste?
yeah.
So it's fine. Well, then slow down, take a little bit of everything, but
Mm,
take your time, enjoy it. That will make all the difference in how much you eat, because you're not going to be hungry. And I do have a way that I work with people is before you sit down. This is how I learned at Duke Integrative Medicine about 16 years ago. We were taught mindful eating, and the first thing they did is said, um, just they paused over. They said, "Hey, take a piece of paper out and rate from 1 to 10 how hungry you are. 1 is you are starving, you're going to faint at any moment, and 2 is you've had like 2 big meals already, right?" And
mm,
you would do that, and then you went through this mindful eating practice, which they taught us, and it's a little too long to do now to go through all the steps. And midway, they would say, okay, take out that piece of paper. How hungry are you now?
mm,
And it was interesting. Our satiety happened in a way that we didn't even want the rest of the food that we had
mm,
piled on our plate. We were
mm,
satisfied after 20 minutes because we're
mhm.
paying attention. We're getting ourselves to digest first. Let me feel, let me understand how I feel when I am full. It's teaching
Mm.
people the cues of hunger and satiety, right? People
Yeah.
don't usually pay attention to that.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's so easy to follow the culture. You mentioned Thanksgiving and Christmas earlier. It's so easy to follow the culture because the culture tends to overeat at family gatherings. So, what would
Yes.
you say to someone about, well, look, how do you prepare? How can you manage yourself knowing that you're going to a family event?
Actually, I had that experience just last Thanksgiving. I had one of my clients was like, just Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving. And we talked for a bit, about how to eat slowly. And I went through the whole mindful eating exercise with her. And I said, don't deprive yourself. You
Mm,
can have what you want. And that's what I teach. I do not teach diets. I don't think
yeah,
diets work, number one. But I think the deprivation is not a good thing because people go haywire. If they feel deprived, they're going to make up for it. But if you say, enjoy your meal, it's a holiday, you're going to have different things. You can have whatever you want, but take smaller portions to begin with.
yeah, hmm,
Remember, your eyes are bigger than your stomach sometimes at
yeah,
a big event, right? Um, and take your time. Eat slowly, and just know that there's a lot out there. There's a lot on your plate already if you take a little bit of everything. And
mm,
this client came back to me. It's actually on my site. She's one of the testimonials. She was so happy. She goes, you know what? This was great because I did take some of everything that I really wanted. It's so also asking yourself, do you
mm,
really want it? Or is it you're going to take it just because it's there? It's sort
mhm.
of thinking, being aware of your thoughts when you're eating, being aware of, again, what you really want to eat on this wonderful
Mhm,
day. I mean, sometimes you might have sweet potatoes and white potatoes. Well, I know
mhm,
I'll go for the sweet potatoes any day,
mhm,
but
mhm.
I'll leave out certain things. So it's going through all of it with them. And I do go through that with them, and even birthdays. Well, my birthday's
Yeah.
coming.
Mhm,
Have a little bit of cake, but eat it slowly and enjoy it. Just make it smaller.
mhm. Wow. Yeah. One of the things that I guess I hadn't thought about it in this way, but one of the things that showed up for me in your work is that the same kinds of feelings or moods that a person may have if they're experiencing some emotional issue shows up around your work and food. Just a couple of examples. Just tell us about them, if you will. One is guilt.
Mm,
Another is shame. Now, I'm thinking that's in psychology, right? But you have it,
right,
you linked it
right.
with food. So, and then there's stress, and then there's anxiety. So, wait a minute now. Looks like the psychology, depression kind of side, but you put it in also in the domain of foods. So, tell us how these things show up: guilt, shame, stress, anxiety, or just a
Um,
couple of them, if you will.
well, okay, guilt.
Mhm.
You go out, you have a nice dinner, you had a little dessert, and because you had dessert, you beat yourself up. Oh, and this is a
Ah,
perfect example. A lot of the clients did say, well, I was good all day, and
mm,
then I had a piece of chocolate, and then I went haywire. I figured, oh, I'll start again tomorrow.
mm,
So
mhm,
it's almost like a vicious cycle. Because here,
mm,
instead of saying, okay, so I had a piece of chocolate, so let me get back to what I was doing and move on. But some people say, oh, once I start, well, that's a limiting belief. And then we have to work with the limiting belief, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, shame, I work a lot with confidence, women's confidence. And that's, I'm getting a lot more traction with that because what I'll see is why do people want to lose weight? It's not always because of health, right? They want to look
Mhm.
good. And I could ask any woman if they stood in front of a mirror without their clothing, what would they see? I can tell you they would pick out every flaw that's there instead of looking at their eyes and saying, wow, look at those pretty eyes. Or they
Mm,
won't look at what's beautiful. They'll look at maybe some cellulite. Like, really?
mm,
That's not what defines you. So the
mhm,
shame is a really big deal. And shame, and it makes me sad for people who have shame because
Mm,
I went through that. I always strive to be in good shape, and oh gosh, I gained some weight, and
mm,
maybe do I look fat in these jeans? That phrase.
yeah.
We all have it. And my husband would just sit there and go, "Oh, you're ridiculous," because you know I was it was body shaming myself, and
Mm,
learning not to do that is a wonderful thing. um you were saying lonely
yeah.
is that's I do have someone that goes through that, and she is depressed because she is lonely. She her kids are
Mm,
all grown, they're gone, and she lives by herself. And she just says, I eat a half a gallon of ice cream every night. And okay. And so, do you really feel that it helps you? Well, not really, because I do it again the next night. Right. So then we have to work on what could you do differently? Maybe it's
yeah.
sitting in a different chair. I mean, it sounds crazy, but sometimes just moving where you're sitting. We have all these neural pathways where, well, every
Mm,
time I sit in my little recliner, I have a bowl of ice cream. Well, sit in another place and
mhm,
try to replace it with something else. See what happens.
mhm.
And it's all about
Yeah.
every client. It's experimental because
Yeah.
it's really kind of fun because they get to figure it out too, right? I don't
Yeah.
tell them go to the different chair, but we'll talk about different ideas.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle, isn't it? And
It
being
is.
gentle with yourself is important.
Oh, it's so, so important. And we are our worst critics, as we all know.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
in that self-love is a really important thing. I do recommend my clients, if they're willing to start journaling. Yeah, really
Yeah.
start journaling. What's going on up there? Look
Hmm.
at how did you eat when you were young? How did you eat when you were a teen? How do you eat now? And put the pieces together. What was going on in your life at this time when you started, binging?
Hmm. Yeah, as a natural health doctor, and you had already mentioned this before, but I want to return to it. You said that you do believe that supplementation, taking supplements, could support a person's efforts to become
Absolutely.
healthier. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
my question to you now is, I mean, with so many things out there, how do we figure it out? What's good for us?
Well, you have to ask somebody who knows what those answers are because
Okay.
over the counter, one a day or Centrum. There's so many fillers in a lot of these things.
Mhm.
I have always favored where the ingredients are coming from. I've been taking minerals that were, there's certain companies I will recommend different products from different companies, not based on what is the best thing for your body.
Mm.
There is the minerals are amazing, and they come from a mine. There's only two mines in the United States, and this mine is akin to 5,000 year mine. It's like all those layers, and they get their minerals directly from the mine, and they're not missing any of the trace minerals. There's like
Mm.
77 minerals or 66 minerals. There's fine different types of minerals, and all of them are in their one product. And I like,
Yeah.
well, I'll never not take those. The same as I was saying with the muscadine. If you need an antioxidant, there are certain antioxidants that I know come from a good source. They're the way they're I want to say manufactured, but I want to not say manufactured like they're putting stuff in it, but how they create these things in the right environments, and
Mhm.
they stay away from the fillers, and so you're getting the full amount of what you need, and it's
Yeah.
pure.
Hmm. Yeah. Supplements can be important. I even heard that there's some pharmaceutical companies that are manufacturing supplements, but that they have fillers in them. They're not the real deal. I don't know. So got to be
And
careful out
it's
there.
yeah, you do. And in fact, that muscadine company the pharmaceutical companies were climbing all over them. They really wanted this product. And they said, nope, because we know you're going to
Uh,
put fillers in it. And they wouldn't do it.
yeah.
And I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
So
It's
very
a
true.
yeah, big farmer. Now, I know you're also a burnout recovery coach. And I know you work with a lot of healthcare workers, but others, right? So
Mm.
firstly, talk with us about burnout, which is look, I mean, everyone is talking about it these days, especially in medicine. What is burnout? Help us understand what that is.
When you're burnt out, you stop caring. And I'm thinking
Mm,
about healthcare right now. Look at all the healthcare workers who had to go through COVID.
yeah.
They didn't get sleep, number one. They didn't eat right, number two. Um, they were terrified. They were fearful, not only for their life, but for their families' lives. Um, and they were being taken, they felt like they're taking advantage of this human being I am because they won't let me go home. I'm
Mhm.
working 7 days a week. I can't get a day off. And the long hours some of these doctors work, the conditions they had to work under. I mean, remember the masks? They were
Yeah.
almost blistered, right? Um, and some of them couldn't even go home because they had compromised people at home. What they went through was so sad. And I had a
Mm.
friend, a very close friend, in fact, who was still working in one of the ICUs. I worked with her in New York. And the trauma ICU was what they did is they said, we're going to make this the COVID vented unit. So
Mm.
they put the trauma somewhere else because this was,
Mm.
big unit. She said, she'd have to watch like up to 3 to 4 deaths a day
Oh
because
my.
these were end stage COVID. And, it was disheartening. You just,
Mm.
when I see people like that, and it gets to the point where they just don't want to do this work anymore, that's burnout. I mean,
Mm.
that's what I see as burnout because
Yeah.
a lot of people, they
Mhm.
left, they left the healthcare. Um, they left healthcare altogether, really.
Yeah. Mm. So, but you also say that you work with them on recovery from burnout. That is, here's a tag I found with you. You said you can help people renew their energy and regain their zest for life. So, how do you do that?
I start by asking them number one, what's going on, and then ask them
Mm.
what makes them happy.
Mm. Wow,
People
that's a
forget,
powerful question.
yeah, what makes you happy? Because when people are burned out, nothing makes them happy, right? But
Mm.
we might dig a little deeper. Do you have children? Tell me about a time when you looked at that child and you just couldn't stop smiling. Um,
Mm.
we start little by little. Everything, and I always say, when people work with me, it's not quick fix because there's a lot going on up there. And we want to
Mhm.
make sure whatever transformation you make is going to stick. But it does take a lot of work on the client's end. I mean, they have to really, they got to dig deep
Mhm.
and it's okay because we're looking at the other side. How good is it going to be?
Yeah, and I can imagine working with a professional who knows, some strategies for getting better or even eating better could be helpful, could be very energizing for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are turning to alcohol,
Mm.
abuse of alcohol, I should say.
Mm.
And when you're burnt out or you're sad, that's
Mm.
probably not the best thing to go to, but
Mm.
that's where they feel they can numb themselves, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's sort of walking through their world with them, and that's what we
Mm.
do. I walk right with them
Mm.
through their world, notice what we can do with our work,
Yeah.
and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to look now. We've been talking about your businesses, about your work, but I want to just focus on your businesses for just a moment. Nature One Health Organization. Why did you establish that business?
That was, oh God, that 3 or 4 decades ago. I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to, I wanted to help people understand natural health, like from herbs to supplements
Mm,
to anything that was not pharmaceutical. So I thought,
mm,
I like that name. I'm going to do that. And I'll put an article out every day to help educate. It
mm,
was really for education, believe it or not. That was all it was. That was before I
mm.
got my doctorate. That was,
Wow.
that was before all of that happened. And I just thought people need to understand there's other things out there.
Mm,
I mean, here I worked in an area where all I saw was acute care. I mean, really, really seriously ill people.
mm, mm.
So, I
Okay.
was looking at the chronic illness and how could we prevent things, and just education mostly is why I
Yeah.
started H1 Health
Yeah.
Organization.
Uh-huh. That's great. I mean, the more we know, we can make a change if we want to, for sure. But also, and I think this is your baby here, if I got this right, professional woman's wellness. Why did you start that? Why is this important to you?
Because I understood that. I understood it from my perspective, and I knew I
Mm,
could help more women get well because I went through so many things myself throughout my
mm,
career. I know what burnout felt like. I knew what um, disappointment felt like. I knew what trauma felt like. I mean, my life has more than just my work. So there were a lot of things in my personal life that was going on. And I
uh,
thought, you know what? If I can help other people get to where I am, because I got through a lot,
mm,
um, that's for another book.
yeah.
um, what better way than to work with professional women because I get it. Professional women, I looked at them and it didn't matter what profession, but people that I kept thinking, gosh, I was single at one time with 3 little kids and I worked ridiculously long hours. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat correctly. I still wanted to have time with my beautiful children.
Mm,
I didn't take care of myself at all. And I got really sick on and off, on and off. Um, and I thought, no, I know what it's like. I know what they're going through. So
mm,
I wanted professional women to have somebody that could work with them that really got them.
mhm. Yeah, it's one thing to get an education from the books, and you got plenty of that as a natural health doctor, but you're saying that, you also got some real life experience that you put into your
Probably more of
practice.
that than the books, even.
Yeah. So I know that you offer, courses online, is it, or in person?
Online,
Mm.
I'm right tomorrow. I'm actually doing a coach-a-thon where I have like
Wow.
8 people lined up. They're going to get a 30-minute complimentary coaching just
Uh,
because I want to get out there a little bit more.
oh, yeah.
That only happens once every 3 months. But
Mhm.
I do group coaching, which is really, really helpful for people that want the extra support. And I do
Mhm.
those last about 3 months. Then I do individual one-to-one coaching,
Uh-huh.
and
Well,
they're all online.
we'll have all this information in the show notes, especially
Yeah.
that what kind of uh, that workshop that's like you mentioned it. What is
Oh,
it again?
mindful eating workshop, or the mindful eating blueprint was one.
Uh-huh.
That was the workshop. Right now, we're doing mindful bites. We have
Wow.
little things that we put together, and the thing that's coming up, that by the time this is featured, we will be running an offer for the group coaching once again, and we'll have a
Mm.
coachathon right at that point
Yeah,
too.
coach-a-thon. That's right. The group coaching. Look, if you're listening to this, just watch the show notes, contact Dr. Gleason, and you'll learn about this coach-a-thon and all of that she's doing. So, look, is there anything else in your heart that you want to share with us that we haven't talked about already?
I just want to tell anyone listening to remember they're not broken. They're
Mm,
not broken. No one is broken. You are you are perfect as you are. Your mind, your spirit. Just rely on who's inside of you instead of being dissuaded by other things or other people's judgments. You're
Mhm.
resourceful and you live a good life.
That's a wonderful spiritual lesson for us all. Well, Peggy Gleason, thank you so much for sitting with me today. I was excited when you said yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well. I absolutely loved our conversation.
Okay. Well, you've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. Our guest today has been Dr. Peggy Gleason, a natural health doctor. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day.
You are not alone, just keep